Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I'm Tina. Today I'm going to be talking about the SPSFC3, my reaction to it as a judge. I thought it might be interesting to kind of go over what it was like. I'm going to talk about what worked, what personally I would do different, like myself, and what I'd like to see from the competition itself. I hope you find this interesting. If not, sorry, I guess. Oh, and if you don't follow the competition on other socials, the winner was a book that I absolutely loved. Keen Eye. Congratulations to Dave Dobson for that. I'm going to be buying a physical copy for sure. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So, to get into it, what worked in the competition? The number of books worked for me quite well. It was reasonable for the amount that I read generally to kind of slide them in to my usual. I did have to keep an eye on how many books I was requesting in NetGalley. That's something I have to do next year. Now that I know that June is like when the finals are, I have to kind of keep my May and June light on NetGalley. The amount of time though that I had to read them worked though as well because I was kind of aware of this. It was easy to plan around my other readings, so I thought that was really good. Going into the books blind worked really well for me. I think it hid some of the preconceived notions that I had about the books if I'd read the blurb. For example, that one, The Hand of God, the one that kind of had like weird, like religious kind of overtones to it. I think if I'd read the blurb, I would have went into it with my own opinions about that, and I'm glad that I didn't because I enjoyed that book. I thought it was really, really good. I don't think I would have not enjoyed it, or I wouldn't have rated it differently, but I just think going in kind of not knowing what the book is about is kind of almost more of a fair way to read it, especially when we're narrowing down the slush pile, only reading the first 20%. Because if I read the blurb and something doesn't show up in the first 20%, but it's something that I think is interesting, I might, be tempted to raise it up in the competition, not based on that and not on the merits of what I read in the first 20%. If that makes any sense. I don't know. It's Friday. I'm tired. The books that we got were absolutely fantastic. There were a few at the start that I was kind of like meh about, but having to only read the first 15 to 20% of that really helped in that regard. The worst is when you're forced to slog through a book you don't like. And there really was only one book like that for me in the entire competition, and that's fine. I had it on audiobook, so that was very helpful because I could kind of do other things as I was listening to it. What I would personally do different if I would be a judge again, I think I'm going to rate the books after I in a set. So in the slush, in the semis, in the finalists, rather than as I go. I started doing this the second half of the semis, and it worked way better for me for sure. I rated one book way higher than I believe I should have in the semis, as I read it before the others when I was still in my reviewer mindset, where I'm a very generous reviewer. I just throw out 5 stars, versus my judge mindset where I had to be a bit more critical. I probably would have given that book a 4 in retrospect, which I think wasn't fair to some other books in the list because it would have bumped them up in terms of, possibly getting into the finals. Anyway, I don't think that that's a fault of mine. I think the thing is the way that we rate, it's not standard across the board. It's based on, our own perceptions of what a book should be. So it might not have had any impact at all. It's just for me personally, I think that would have worked better. So I know that next time, read all the books, then write them. If I do it again, I'm not going to be reviewing the first 20% of the books, like the slush pile books. I wanted to do it, review kind of what I read so far, but it takes too long. It just takes way too long for me to craft that review, film it. I have to be very polite about it because, I don't want people, it's so hard if you're only reviewing the first 20% of the book. And there was an incident where some man got really, really pissed off. And I don't really want to be part of that kind of vitriol. So I think next time I'll just do a wrap-up post, list the ones I voted yes to and which I voted no to, but with no real explanation. At least then it gets the books kind of on people's radar, which I think is kind of part of the point of the competition. I'm not going to be providing my ratings in the reviews as a number. I did that with the first couple in the semis. I just kind of stopped. It's too hard to quantify. I obviously have to do it for the competition part, but in my reviews I'll leave it out because it's hard to explain sometimes. Sometimes you're reading a book and you're like, this book is excellent, and it's hard to kind of really pin it down. So yeah. What I'd like to see differently in the competition as a whole, it was frustrating to see books I found not to my standard move forward in the competition, but that's a personal thing, and I think that's actually a really good way that the competition works is because we do it in teams. So one person is not, influencing everything, not one person's calling all the shots. It is a good thing. It's just kind of I think I would prefer a bit more specificity to the ranking system within the teams. Like, what are we judging on? I found that too vague. I'd like some more direction. Like, how much emphasis to be put on proofreading, for example, versus something else? Like, I don't know. I wouldn't mind some kind of like a rubric. One thing I would love is to have more audiobooks provided by the authors if they have them. It really helps with the reading load. I had to use credits for two that I listened to, which was kind of annoying, but that's fine. I mean, it gets them a sale. But yeah, it would have been cool to have, you know, the audiobook as well as the print, or the ebook. I mean, I know some people, some judges like order all the books, but I'm not rich. I also have way too many books, clearly. So yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of my opinion on how it went. I thought it was a really, really good experience, a really positive experience. I really liked the team that I had. I was in Book Invasion's team, which is Scott at Book Invasion's team. You should check out his channel. I don't think he's been posting videos for quite a while, though, but his, like, backlog stuff is really good. Yeah, I really liked kind of meeting these people and other book reviewers, because one thing that I try to do is go on other people's channels and like watch their videos, but there's only so much time in the day, and that's one thing that I wish I had more time for, was like watching other booktuber stuff. So it was great to like talk to these other reviewers, and some reviewers were in different spaces, like they were bloggers or they were just like purely on like Twitter. So it was kind of cool to kind of see that. Yeah, so I'm just going to rank the finalists for you, just kind of my personal opinion. If you want to know why I rank them this way, you can check out my reviews. I've created an SPSFC list for them in there so you can find them easily. Yeah, so obviously the top book for me was Kenai. I gave that book a 9.5. I thought it was fantastic. Thrill Switch was my second favorite. I gave that one an 8. Children of the Black, I also gave an 8. I didn't like it as much as Thrill Switch. I found it a bit long, but it was still really good. 3 Grams and Memoirs, I gave those both a 7. Dark Theory, I gave a 6. Shout out to a semi that didn't make it into the finalists, which was a real shame. That was Prompt Excursion. I gave that one an 8.5. I thought that book was so, so good, and I'm going to buy it as like a consolation prize. Ooh, my one purchase. But anyway, yeah, I highly recommend checking out all of these books. They're all really good. Everything in the competition was really good, and it was a really good experience, and I'm hopefully going to do it next year. So, yeah, thanks.